8:37 here at KTRS. Jake Hansler, Kelly Jackson. We're joined by Graham Renz, policy researcher at the Show Me Institute. Good morning.
Morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. St. Louis has really been trying to get an MLS team. I mean, it's a big soccer town. No secret that people would love to see a team come here. We don't really have a facility right now, but there have been discussions recently about bringing a team and building a stadium.
That's right. There are two kind of proposals going on right now. Just for a little background, the city's been trying to lure a major league soccer team here for some time now, and the MLS has made public that they're interested in working with one group, SCSTL, on bringing a team here, expanding the league. That ownership group has a proposal to build a $200 million stadium downtown next to Union Station. The catch, at least, is that this group wants $80 million in public funding. So there's a conversation going on right now about whether the public should be funding 40% of a major stadium like this. What complicates the story is that another potential ownership group called City Foundry, who I know McGraw spoke to the other week, has offered to cover the $80 million gap that the former ownership group wants the public to cover. So now we're getting into the conversation of who should own this team. Should the public cough up $80 million to help fund a soccer team for a bunch of really wealthy individuals? How do we get a soccer team to come here? It's all kind of unfolding right now.
So initially, it's very base. We have someone willing to build the stadium and cover the entire cost, and we have someone willing to build the stadium but wants the city to kick in $80 million.
Yeah, that's
why,
right.
Why would we even have a discussion about that?
That's an interesting question. First off, I'm not sure it's the role of government to get involved in building sports stadiums, and we've seen across the country that these sorts of things never work out. There's no financial returns, there's no economic growth. So I think this should be really clear, and we should be scratching our heads on why taxpayers are being asked to cough up $80 million so that a group of wealthy individuals can have the kind of returns on their soccer team that they want. But it comes down to some more just pragmatic concerns, maybe some political concerns. Both the MLS and the city have shown interest in this one ownership group, SCSTL, that wants the public subsidy. The MLS has made clear that that's the ownership group that they're willing to work with. There's some strife. And then this other group, City Foundry, has come in, kind of ruffled everybody's feathers a little bit. So the worry is that we've got a bird in the hand with this one group. It costs $80 million, but there's an $80 million bird in the bush. Is it worth going for that bird in the bush?
That's right, because you wonder, they're offering the $80 million, allegedly, and there's always a catch to something like that. But then again, as we talked about last week, when they're offering something like that and not having the public pay for it, and then if you want to put that to the public vote, and the public's going to say, well, why do we have to pay for it if someone else is offering to pay for it? So,
and I think even deeper than that is, why is it the government choosing who should own a soccer team in this town? I mean, isn't it a matter of who can pay for the team, who can support the team, and shouldn't the decision be made by the market itself as opposed to a few people in City Hall or in county government?
I think you're exactly right. Unfortunately, St. Louis and cities across the state have a habit of giving out tens of millions of dollars, picking winners and losers, whether it's who's going to own a soccer team, whether it's who's going to get to build the development, whether who's going to get $7 million, $70 million off their tax bill. Unfortunately, policymakers here have a bad habit of doing these sorts of things. And I think you're exactly right. The market should be deciding this. And what's even more frustrating is that soccer-specific stadiums like they're proposing here have been built, new ones within the last 5-10 years, for well under $200 million. We're talking about nice, high-end stadiums being built for $100, $120 million. If this one ownership team just took out that $80 million subsidy, they could have a nice stadium. We could have a soccer team. But for whatever reason, they're still asking for the handout.
And we're a little short on time, so it's probably an unfair question, but is there anything to indicate that one group is a better choice just based on their qualifications to own and operate a soccer team? Is there a clear choice, one over the other, based on that criteria alone?
I can't speak to the professional credentials of either of these groups, and I don't think, it's not my place to say who should own this, and I think that's the point exactly, is that we have two what would appear to be qualified ownership groups. One is willing to pay for this, to put their money on the line for this investment. The other isn't. So other things being equal, their credentials, I think we should really take seriously the option, the group that's willing to pay for it themselves and not unload this massive burden on taxpayers.
Where is this headed next? Who's going to make these decisions, and what's the role of the public in that?
So I think the role of the public right now is keeping the conversation going on whether it's their role to pick up the tab for a Major League Soccer ownership team. So that conversation needs to keep on going forward. I think as of right now, the idea is to have an April ballot measure to consider whether the public would vote whether or not they would help fund this. But the details for the funding proposal, the financials, I don't believe are tacked down. So everything is still very much up in the air. But I think, again, it's really important for folks to ask themselves if, when the city's water department is asking for more money, when the city gives away tens of millions of dollars every year in tax incentives, when it wants to build a multi-billion-dollar Metrolink expansion, when it's got all these ideas, can we seriously sit here and talk about the public coughing up $80 million for a soccer team? We really need to ask ourselves that.
Well, and we're just right on the heels of what was almost a disaster in the city with the Rams leaving and what they were asking for us, and we dodged a bullet, I think, with that crazy ownership group. We could have been on the hook for hundreds of millions there so that Stan Kroenke could put a few more dollars in his pocket. And again, I think that goes to your point. Is that what we should be doing with public monies?
Yeah, I think the resounding answer should be no. We're still paying on the dome that was Edward Jones Dome. All across the country, we've got a huge stack of case studies that say these deals don't work. There's no public return. There's no financial return for the city or for taxpayers. We're not going to get $80.1 million out of this deal. We're going to have the civic value, the civic virtue of having a Major League Soccer team, which is great. I don't want to be anti-soccer here. That's not the point. The point is whether taxpayers should have another burden just so that we can go downtown and buy tickets and help the rich guys get richer.
That's Graham Renz, policy researcher at the Show Me Institute. I'd like you to go on the record. Are you in favor of soccer?
I am absolutely in favor of soccer, in favor of all sorts of stuff, in favor of hockey, football. Although I will say on the record, I am primarily an NFL fan, and my Giants lost yesterday. It's upsetting, but all for soccer. I think we just have to stop and think what the best way to bring soccer is here in St. Louis.
Thank you, Graham Renz. It is 8:45. KTRS, the Big 550.